talking on the cell phone. Yeah. That's right.
We're going to do that with these meetings. We're going to have these podcasts.
That's challenging. That's definitely challenging. Those situations are where I've closed my eyes and drummed, and I didn't want to see what was happening in the room, you know. But there is that real ripe age, and we can really we can encourage children. They came into this time knowing the challenges they were going to face. That is their destiny. That's their destiny to come in and bring us to that next state. So to encourage them and encourage their strength and let them grow into their power, I think is really the great gift that we can give to children.
You said something about us creating or building the images for the future.
Mm-hmm.
And my question was, I guess the place where I come from is sitting in my room by myself creating, an image for the future by myself. But I think what you're talking about maybe is something more inclusive of more of groups of people together coming to an image for the future, or something like that. I don't really understand.
Okay, first of all, it's an important question because it's a very practical question. First of all, there is no such thing as sitting by oneself. It does not exist. I always remember years ago, Mrs. Tweedy gave us this practice in which she told us to take an orange and to peel it. And to peel it, take an orange, and when we were completely on our own, to peel it and to describe the experience that we had. And so people came back to the meditation group and they described, these experiences. They peeled the orange and they saw the segments of the orange as the different aspects of the whole. Or there was this sweet aroma from the orange that reminded them of God. Or, you'd be surprised, this was, 20 years ago, we all had wonderful experiences of peeling this orange. And at the end of, 20 minutes, she just said, "None of you got it!" And later, I came across it in a classic Sufi text, actually. It is a particular Sufi teaching. It said, you are never alone. You cannot peel an orange on your own because you are never alone. And the moment you realize that you step out of this image, this dream, this fantasy of your own separate self, and there are two ways you can do it. You can either step out of it through direct experience, mystical experience of the divine, or oneness, which many people have, or you can also use the imagination to step out into this other reality, or this reality that is much more present, which is we are all connected. And that's one of the reasons I like the internet, because it's actually a symbol, a living symbol that's been given to humanity to express this interconnected oneness. And the moment you realize you're not alone, you are an organic center of light that belongs to this organic light structure. And so if your consciousness is being used to create an image, your consciousness that is creating this image is directly connected to it is the consciousness of the whole. And you don't know how your consciousness is being used. This is the beauty of it. You don't know how what you are doing in your room, this awareness that you have, you don't know how this interconnects with the oneness of life. You don't know what is being resonated around this whole web of life that's also a web of light. And it works completely differently to our logical, rational mind. Why? Because it is alive and it belongs to God. And it is very, very, very beautiful. And it needs our consciousness to bring something alive. And it needs our individual consciousness. Yes, it can function in a group like this. It cannot function in an organization. It cannot function in a hierarchy. If you have any hierarchical organization, it's dead. That belongs to the dream of the past. The life energy is already being withdrawn from them. They function dysfunctionally. If you can say that. Organic structures that move, that change, that are not fixed, that is where life is recreating itself, and we are part of it. And as I said, you don't have to go off and do anything. You just have to, if you're a person that's drawn to groups, then you will participate in groups. If you're a person who's drawn to being alone, it will be alone. What's most important is you hold the image and you recognize its sacred dimension. Because it is the sacred, your conscious awareness of the sacred dimension of an image that gives you access to its power, what Jung called its numinosity, the sacred dimension of the imaginal archetypal world. And once you recognize its sacredness, then it is like a key that can unlock the living, energetic potential in that image. Jung said clearly, he said it is the archetypal images that decide the fate of man. He said it's not consciousness. It's not what happens in the conscious self, it is the archetypal images. They are incredibly powerful. He called them the riverbeds of life, through which the energy of life flows. And they, if they are held in the consciousness of human beings who are attuned to their own divine potential, then they bring that divine energy into life to recreate life once again in a direct relationship between the divine and life. And it doesn't matter where you are, because you are life. You are not yourself. This is really another myth. You are life. This spark of life that has been given this individual identity for a few years to have experiences on this plane. Yes, but you are, each of us here is a spark of life that is just part of life. And it can create images. And it can be used to create the images of the future or drown in the images of the past. And also one thing is, please do not take this too seriously. You know, this is part of the Puritan spiritual conditioning. Nobody is allowed to have spiritual fun. One thing I can tell you about this work of oneness, this work of the future, it has to be fun.
So Llewellyn, this is the second time I've heard you talk about this work with women, and something in me deeply understands that. And I'm wondering if you'd be willing to provide some instruction or direction how to begin to deepen into that process.
Deepen what?
The work that you're describing for women to do.
The work I am describing for women to do. Oh, that work to do with the spiritual body of the world. That is very, very important. What comes to me is, first, women need to reattune themselves with the sacred rhythm of life, which is something we have forgotten, because there is a certain work that can only be done in this world when you are attuned to that rhythm. You can work in the inner planes, out of the body, it doesn't matter, but if you want to work in this world, first of all you have to, it is like the breath of life. Your breath has to be the breath of life. You just go, you breathe with the world, you align yourself with the sacredness of matter, and so in a way you become one body. And then when you are in tune with the rhythm of life, which is your rhythm, then there is this opening between you and life. There is this, you see, feminine mysteries held the secrets of creation for thousands and thousands of years. And this was the work of the priestesses in the temples. They held this for humanity, and this sacred understanding of the relationship between spirit and matter. And when the patriarchy came and it killed the priestesses and cut that sacred understanding. So it is for each woman first to respect that part of herself and that rhythm within her, which is also, I wonder if it has to do with what you talk about, the moon.